Hi there, it's Mark, and welcome to what really is just a ramble. And I've been influenced by a couple of other channels where I guess between talking about books, they're just talking about various topics. And I thought that's a really nice thing to do. I'm not sure I do them regularly, but who knows? There's quite a lot of stuff that I would like to talk about that ordinarily talking about books I wouldn't. So to kick off, I thought I'd just talk about short stories. Something like you get here. Jorge Luis Borges, who's famous for his short stories. The benefit of a short story for myself is that it doesn't tire the mind. I like to read. I naturally read slow, but of course with a very big book, that could mean that you're with that, or it's on your, in my case, desktop, for months. There was one book, it was huge, and I committed to reading it, and it took me about 2 years. There has to be issues with that, and you really have to be committed to come back on a regular basis. But with short stories, it's a lot easier. Even as I read slow, because I can generally get through about 10, 15 pages at a push in one sitting. I've done one to do with the first in the set here, called The Garden of Forking Paths. It took me 2 days to read it, 21 pages, so it's perfect for myself. And if anybody else is a slow reader, they're good for that one reason. The other thing as well is that with these, there seems to be a rush to get as many books read as possible. And that's fine. I personally wouldn't recommend it because of burnout. But if that is something that floats your boat, great. Who am I to say otherwise? But it's not how many books you get through. It's how many books get through to you. I think that's the key. And when I was in my 20s and 30s, I just read, thinking, oh yeah, I want to get as many books under my belt as possible. I collected the Marshall Cavendish monthly, well, no, it may have been weekly or fortnightly collection of books that I see dotted around even here in New Zealand in second-hand bookstores, because I collected about 3/4 of them. I stopped personally when I realised that they're all tending to be British Victorian. There was no modern works and there was no foreign writers. So I thought it was very limited. But what I read, I really enjoyed. But a lot of them were big books. You wouldn't get anything like this as part of that collection. But in here, you've got, actually, I wonder how many stories there are. 14 stories from H.G. Wells, I think he's got a couple, to Mary Shelley, Voltaire, Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, Arthur Conan Doyle, all writing science fiction, and it's put together as the classic science fiction stories, just an anthology. The size of the book appeals to me, but the fact that you can get through these at your own pace, and they're easy to read, and they're very powerful. It's like songs. Lyrics. A song generally will last 2 to 3 minutes, and they're powerful. You will remember the lyrics because there's not much to remember. And often with the music, the emotional weight for some of the songs are really powerful. And I think that's the same with short stories. They're often focused on one thing. They'll do it succinctly, and if it's in an anthology, they tend to do it uniquely in a memorable way. And it's just a very easy thing to dip in and out of. And I'll put these in the same kind of arena, because you get like these almost like haikus here and statements that we remember forever. We remember quotes because they're powerful, but they're not very long. In fact, I've come to realise that when you go through Norton Anthology and it's showing you the classic pieces of literature from various ages, some are quite long, there's no doubt about that. but some are very short. And in fact, I did The Wife's Lament, and I'm trying to find it. So I've done The Dream of the Rood, which is not very long. I also did The Wife's Lament, which is not very long. Very powerful, very memorable. And again, because it's written like poetry, again, powerful medium, but they're not very long. So I guess this is to praise small pieces of statements, or in this case, philosophy. Again, I'm losing my notes. Every time I open this book, I lose notes out of it. You can have dense text, but also not much. And it's the fact that it's like a piece of artwork. It can be very, very busy. It doesn't have to be. It can be quite minimalist, and it could just have as equal effect on you than the most busiest piece of art that you can come across. Same with like comics. So if you think of DC Comics and how a lot of them are very minimalist, lots of white space, negative space, block text and colors, yet they're memorable. And they're items that people want to collect. And this, I think, is a case in point. There's a lot of sea shanties in here, and I've also already talked about songs. But the thing about shanties, like the Spanish Ladies, it tells a story. Very evocative story about a group of men, sailors, who are going back to the UK. In the age of sail, they're saying goodbye to the Spanish ladies at the very beginning. At the end, they say they've just anchored the Downs, which is Kent. And they say, now let every man toss off a full bumper. That's a big drink. Let every man drink off a full glass, and we'll drink and be merry and drown melancholy, singing, here's good health to each true-hearted lass, the ones they left behind. And in between, they're talking about on their way to the UK, England, what they're seeing, the soundings, and the chorus will rant and will roar like true British sailors, will rant and will roar across the salt seas, until we strike soundings, and the channel of old England, from Ushant to Scilly, is 35 leagues. Well, there's a full tale there in that song that wouldn't last more than a couple of minutes. And that is the power of stories. So most people have heard of Animal Farm, but it's not very long. 96 pages. And yet in here, simplistic tale, which the author highlights the way communism was falling apart and what it represented by use of animals. So very simple, very often overly simplistic language. And this is a classic one, which I'm about to put together some ideas about. So yeah, it's the philosophy, the ideas behind it is often overlooked by children and adults. But Lewis Carroll was trying to make, I think, deeper statements than just telling a story about Alice. So just to reinforce the idea that it has got nothing to do with how much you read. It's what you're taking in. And that is the key. No one gets a prize for reading more thick books or big books than others. It doesn't make you a better person either. And with Alice, a case in point would have been the song from the 1960s, White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. And the lyrics, in fact, I'm going to bring them up. One pill makes you larger, one pill makes you small, and the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask Alice when she's 10 feet tall. The thing about the Alice in Wonderland, she's changing heights all the time, all the way through. And if you go chasing rabbits and you know you're going to fall, she falls down the rabbit hole, tell him a hookah-smoking caterpillar, who's one of the characters, has given you the call. Call Alice when she was just small. When the men on the chessboard get up and tell you where to go, and you've just had some kind of mushroom and your mind is moving low, go ask Alice, I think she'll know. When logic and proportion, and this is what it seems to be a theme here that Carol's trying to talk about, have fallen sloppy dead, and the white knight is talking backwards, and the red queen's off with her head. Remember what the dormouse said, feed your head, feed your head. That's it. 4 verses, each verse about 5 lines. And it encapsulates everything about this. And when you think that that is just as memorable for somebody of that generation from the 60s and 70s than the story itself, that is the beauty of stories and messages that are condensed into such a short version. And I personally would love to see more love. Does that make sense? Well, the Beatles said that. I love to love, yeah. I'd love to see more love given over to short stories, because I think they should not be underestimated or ignored. They're a very important part of literature. And okay, you may think you're not getting such value for money if it's short, but I guess it's down to what you value. So I hope I've made some kind of a case in defense of the short and sweet. And let's be honest, if you're making content for YouTube and you want to get out regular pieces to do with books, small helps. I don't do it for that one reason. Do you like short stories or whatever? Please comment, as always, because it's great to interact. That is the beauty of booktube, back and forth talking with people. So thank you for listening. Ta-ta for now.